Have you ever wondered what stories these ancient treasures could tell? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where history's hidden mysteries come alive. Please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let's begin our journey into the past. The Borobudur Reliefs, stories etched in stone and sky. High above the misty plains of central Java, where the morning fog wraps itself around the volcanoes like drifting silk, there stands a monument unlike any other, a mountain of stone that breathes with stories. Its name is Borobudur. To the traveler approaching it at dawn, it seems less like a temple and more like a dream that forgot to fade with the night. Rising tier upon tier, 9 levels of dark volcanic stone catch the first rays of sunlight, glowing faintly golden as the mist thins. Each surface, each corner, each narrow path holds a story. Thousands of them, carved over 1,000 years ago by hands long gone, yet still alive in the grooves of the reliefs. There is no single way to look at Borobudur. From above, its perfect symmetry forms a mandala, a cosmic diagram meant to lead the mind toward enlightenment. From the ground it feels endless, its walls unfolding in corridors of narrative, its carvings whispering to those who walk slowly enough to listen. The reliefs do not simply decorate the stone, they speak. They show a world of kings and merchants, monks and villagers, birds in flight and ships on distant seas. They show the life of the Buddha, but also somehow the life of all beings. In their silence, they hum with the rhythm of centuries. Imagine the artisans who carved them. The air was hot, thick with the scent of wet stone and crushed volcanic dust. They worked barefoot, balanced on bamboo scaffolding, the sound of chisels echoing across the valley. For years they shaped these walls into vision. They knew the stories by heart, tales from the Lalitavastara, the Jataka, and the Avadana. Yet each figure they carved was not merely an illustration, it was a prayer, a way to turn belief into permanence. As you walk the lower levels, you encounter scenes of the world as it is, full of desire, struggle, and endless rebirth. There are merchants leading their caravans through forests thick with vines, kings receiving visitors beneath grand pavilions, farmers guiding oxen through fields. The reliefs are alive with movement, waves curling beneath carved ships, the wind invisible but implied by the tilt of leaves and the gesture of a robe. This is Kamadathu, the realm of desire, the foundation of all human experience. Above it lies Rupadathu, the realm of form. Here the carvings shift in tone. The stories become more spiritual, the figures more graceful, less burdened by the weight of earth. The Buddha appears again and again, surrounded by disciples, radiating calm in a swirl of stillness. Every smile, every tilt of the head is deliberate, a visual mantra. The stone seems lighter here, the air quieter, as though sound itself is being trained to fade. Finally comes Arupadathu, the realm beyond form. The walls end, the carvings stop. In their place rise terraces of bell-shaped stupas, 72 of them, each holding a serene seated Buddha within. Their silence is profound. It is not emptiness, but completion. To walk among them is to step into the sky. The wind that circles the mountain carries with it a kind of knowing that words can't hold. From here, the surrounding world, the fields, the villages, the volcanoes, seems distant, almost illusory. What remains is the sound of breath, and the faint memory of chisels striking stone. Yet Borobudur is not just a temple, it is a text, a library carved in relief, meant to be read by walking. Pilgrims once circled it clockwise, their bare feet brushing the cool stone, their eyes tracing the stories upward. Each circuit brought them closer to enlightenment, both physically and spiritually. As the sun rose, it would catch the faces of the Buddhas one by one, as though awakening them anew each day. Every ray of light turned the carvings into living gold, and the shadows danced like passing thoughts. In those carvings, there is humor and humanity. One panel shows a monkey offering a mango to the Buddha, a gesture of devotion simple yet profound. Another depicts a sea voyage, the ship's sails billowing against an invisible wind, its passengers carved with such care you can almost see their fear of the storm to come. The reliefs capture not only sacred myths but the pulse of everyday life, people trading goods, washing clothes, feeding children. Through these, the ancient Javanese artisans immortalized their world, merging divine truth with human touch. Centuries passed, the jungle began to reclaim the land. Earthquakes shook the stones, and vines crawled over the stupas. For hundreds of years, Borobudur slept under layers of volcanic ash and soil, forgotten by the empires that once revered it. Travelers whispered of a mountain of statues buried somewhere in Java, but none could find it. The reliefs, silent and unseen, waited in darkness, their stories unread. Then, in the 19th century, a rediscovery. Under the guidance of the British administrator Thomas Stamford Raffles, local villagers began to clear the overgrowth. Slowly, the temple revealed itself, not as a ruin, but as something almost miraculously preserved. The carvings emerged from the soil like memories resurfacing, Faces long hidden saw the sun again. Each cleaned panel brought back not only art but an entire cosmology, a map of ancient belief, chiseled in stone. Restoration followed. Dutch and Indonesian archaeologists spent decades stabilizing the structure, cleaning the carvings, and documenting every panel. When you look closely at the reliefs today, you see not only the skill of their creators, but the gentle scars of time, softened lines, faint cracks, weathered smiles. Yet even after 12 centuries, the details endure. The texture of a robe, the feather of a bird, the ripples in a pond. The stories still speak, unchanged. Standing there today, you can almost feel the layers of meaning that Borobudur holds. It is both earthly and cosmic, human and divine. The path you walk is the path toward understanding, told through thousands of moments carved into stone. And as the day moves, the light itself becomes part of the story. Golden at dawn, white at noon, crimson at dusk. Each shift in color reveals a new detail, a new reflection, as though the monument is alive and breathing with the sky. There's something humbling about realizing that the reliefs were never meant for a single viewer. They were created for generations to outlast kings, wars, and empires. They are a dialogue across time. Each pilgrim who once traced these carvings left an invisible echo, a continuity of awe that has never truly ceased. Even now, when modern travelers walk these paths with cameras in hand, the temple seems to look back, calm and timeless, its silence deeper than any word could capture. One can imagine the ancient sculptors, hundreds of them, each trained in a craft that blended devotion with discipline. They did not sign their names. They left no personal mark. Their art was anonymous, offered to something greater than themselves. Perhaps they never even saw the finished monument in its entirety. Yet their work survives, not as individuals but as a shared voice, the collective whisper of an entire civilization in stone. Borobudur's reliefs are, in a sense, a frozen chant. The stories they tell, of compassion, of wisdom, of rebirth, are meant to be heard not through sound but through sight and feeling. Every figure carries a lesson. Every scene flows into the next, a visual sermon that ascends toward silence. When you stand before them, you are part of that story. You become another figure in the endless procession toward understanding. At sunset, the temple turns to shadow, the sky burns with orange and violet, and the carved Buddhas seem to dissolve into the dimming light. The air grows cooler, and a hush settles over the terraces. Somewhere in the valley below, a bell rings from a modern monastery, its tone drifting upward. It feels like an answer to a question the stones have been asking for centuries. The day closes, but the stories remain. Borobudur is not a relic, it is a living mirror, one that reflects both the ancient world and the timelessness of the human spirit. Its reliefs remind us that art, when born from devotion, does not fade, it endures, carved in stone, lifted toward the sky, carried forward in every breath of wind that brushes across its weathered walls. It is both prayer and poem, carved by many, meant for all. And if you listen closely, truly listen, you might hear it still. Not the sound of chisels or footsteps or bells, but the quiet murmur of time itself, echoing through the stories etched in stone and sky. The Korean Goryeo Celadon Vos, the emerald whisper of the east. The morning mists drift low over the valleys of Goryeo, curling between the pine-covered hills like pale ribbons of smoke. A faint chill lingers in the air, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and distant wood fires. In the soft light before sunrise, a potter walks toward the riverbank, his sandals brushing through reeds still heavy with dew. He does not speak, and there is no sound except the whisper of the river and the slow rhythm of his breathing. In his arms he carries a woven basket, empty for now, but soon it will hold the beginnings of something that will outlive dynasties. The clay lies hidden beneath the water's edge, a secret mixture of minerals that only the most patient hands can truly understand. He kneels and scoops it up, feeling its cool weight, the smooth texture that sticks lightly to his skin. The clay has a quiet strength. It resists at first, then yields, like an animal that must learn to trust. The potter smiles faintly. He knows this feeling well. For years he has shaped the same river's gift into bowls, cups, and vases for merchants who travel to Kaesong, the capital. Yet this time he wants to make something different, something so perfect that it carries the peace of the mountains inside its curve. By the time the sun climbs over the ridge, his cart is filled with clay. The wheels groan as he guides it along the narrow path home. In the distance, smoke rises from dozens of kilns scattered across the valley. The Goryeo kingdom has become famous for the delicate green pottery that foreigners call celadon. Nobles and monks alike treasure it, for they say its color holds the calm of heaven reflected in still water. But no one, not even the potters themselves, can fully explain how the magic happens. The secret lies in a meeting of fire and air, of glaze and ash, of patience and faith. At his small workshop, the potter sets down the basket and begins to knead the clay. His palms press and fold, until the air bubbles vanish and the surface becomes soft as silk. The sound is rhythmic, soothing, the heartbeat of craft. His wife brings him tea and quietly watches. She knows that when he works like this, he forgets to eat, forgets to rest. The kiln outside hums with yesterday's fire, and the faint scent of pine ash drifts through the door. As he works the clay upon the wheel, the vase begins to rise. Slowly, gracefully, it takes shape under his fingers. A long neck, a round belly, the curve of a lip so fine it seems to tremble. Each movement must be steady, for even the smallest hesitation will leave a scar. He thinks of the wind moving through bamboo and tries to copy its balance. The world beyond the workshop fades until there is only clay, breath, and motion. When the form is complete, he lifts it gently and sets it to dry. The vase stands pale and unfinished, its surface waiting for the glaze that will define its soul. Outside, other potters are preparing their glazes, mixtures of feldspar, quartz and wood ash ground so finely they feel like powder. Some add iron oxide to create a hint of blue or gray. Others experiment with copper for traces of red, but the potter prefers simplicity. He believes beauty is born from restraint, not abundance. For days the vase rests in the open air, drying beneath the filtered sun. Each morning he turns it slightly so that no side bears the weight of shadow too long. A child passes by and points at it, marveling at its smoothness. The potter smiles but says nothing. Words could never explain what he sees in that shape, a stillness that belongs to rivers, a patience that belongs to stone. When at last it is ready, he mixes his glaze. The color in the bowl looks dull, grayish, unremarkable, but he knows that within it sleeps the green of the sea, after rain. He dips the vase carefully, turning it so that the glaze coats every curve. It dries to a chalky film, fragile and ordinary. Only the kiln can reveal its secret. Night falls over the valley. The potter feeds pine logs into the kiln until the chamber glows. Sparks leap into the darkness like fireflies. The air grows heavy with heat and smoke. Inside, the flames lick the surface of the vase, fusing glaze and clay in a dance of transformation. Too much heat, and the piece will collapse. Too little, and it will emerge dull and lifeless. He must watch the color of the fire itself, reading its shades as a scholar reads poems. Hours pass. His face shines with sweat, and his hands are blackened with soot. At last he seals the opening and lets the kiln rest. The fire will die slowly, taking 2 days to cool. During that time, the potter does nothing but wait. Waiting is part of the craft, a meditation that measures both patience and hope. When the kiln door is finally opened, a faint breath of warmth escapes. He peers inside, half afraid of what he will find. The shelves are covered with the sheen of ash. He lifts the vase into the light, and for a moment he forgets to breathe. The dull clay has vanished. In its place glows a color unlike anything of this earth. It is not green, not blue, but a perfect harmony between them, like a piece of the morning sky trapped in stone. He tilts it gently. The light slides across its surface like water. He has done it. The glaze has bloomed just as he dreamed. The faint crackles beneath the surface form a pattern like frost on glass, subtle, deliberate, alive. When his wife sees it, she whispers that it seems to hold the soul of a mountain spring. The potter bows his head. He knows it is not his doing alone. Fire and clay have wills of their own. Days later, a merchant from the capital arrives. He is searching for wares fit for the royal court. When he sees the vase, he stops as if struck by silence. He runs his hand along its smooth curve and feels the pulse of perfection. Without bargaining, he pays a sum that could feed the potter's family for a year. Then he wraps the vase in silk and begins the long journey to Kaesong. The road winds through fields of barley and over mountain passes lined with pines. Along the way, the merchant guards the vase as if it were a living thing. He does not let it out of sight. At night, he sets it beside him by the campfire, its faint sheen reflecting the flames. Sometimes he imagines it breathing, as though the spirit of some ancient forest had found refuge inside its walls. When the merchant reaches the capital, he presents the vase to the royal court. The ministers gather around, whispering admiration. The king himself descends from the dais to look closer. He sees in it the elegance of Goryeo, balanced, pure, and still. He commands that it be placed in the hall of reflection, where sunlight filters through lattice windows and dances upon the jade floor. There the vase sits for many years. It watches as officials come and go, as the sound of bamboo flutes drifts through the corridors. Seasons pass. In spring, plum blossoms fall upon its rim like snow. In autumn, the shadows of lanterns flicker across its side. It has no voice, yet it witnesses everything: the laughter of courtiers, the quiet prayers of monks, the slow heartbeat of a kingdom at peace. But peace never lasts. The century turns, and with it come storms, invasions, rivalries, shifting loyalties. The Mongol threat rises in the north, and soldiers march through the countryside. The potter who made the vase grows old and dies without ever knowing where his work has gone. Yet somewhere, he would be glad to know that it still glows in the half-light of the palace, a calm eye in a world of chaos. One night, as thunder rolls over the hills, the city trembles with fear. Servants rush to hide the treasures of the court. The vase is wrapped in cloth and carried deep beneath the palace, into a chamber lined with jars of oil and bundles of silk. There it rests in darkness, while war rages above. When the fires finally die, and the invaders withdraw, the kingdom that emerges is changed forever. The old dynasty weakens, new powers rise. The vase is forgotten, its story swallowed by time. Centuries pass, dust gathers, rats scurry across the floor of the buried chamber. Earth presses down, sealing the room like a tomb. The vase waits in silence, untouched, unbroken, patient as stone. Far above, generations are born and die. The capital moves, new cities bloom. The memory of the old potters fades into legend. People speak of the emerald glow of Goryeo as though it were a dream. The kilns that once blazed with pine fire are now overgrown with weeds. Yet beneath the ground the vase endures. Its color does not fade. Its glaze remains as smooth as the day it left the wheel. Rain falls, seasons turn, and at last the earth shifts. A flood carves through the hillside, exposing the buried chamber. A farmer discovers the edge of a jar protruding from the soil. Curious, he begins to dig. The air smells of wet clay and centuries. When he finds the wrapped object and peels away the rotten cloth, the sunlight catches the curve of something green. He blinks, astonished. It shines as if newly born. He carries it home, not understanding what it is. The neighbors gather to marvel. Word spreads quickly, reaching the ears of scholars in Seoul. Within weeks, officials arrive. They clean the vase carefully, removing layers of earth until the full brilliance of its glaze emerges once more. Historians gasp when they see it. They recognize the hallmark of the old kilns, the precise control of temperature, the quiet perfection that few artisans in any age have matched. For the people of Korea, the rediscovery of Goryeo Celadon is like finding the voice of an ancestor still singing beneath the dust. Museums begin to collect surviving pieces. Craftsmen study the old methods, trying to revive the lost art. Yet none can fully reproduce that delicate hue, the one that hovers between sky and sea. They call it by many names, kingfisher green, moonlight jade, but words fail to capture its calm. The vase travels again, this time to a place of honor behind glass. Children press their faces close to it, seeing their own reflections merge with the ancient color. Scholars take notes on its proportions, marveling at the thinness of its walls and the fine web of crackles that shimmer beneath the glaze. Each line is like a frozen ripple in time. If you listen closely, you might almost hear the faint rhythm of the potter's wheel, the crackle of pine wood in the kiln, the whisper of wind across the valley of his birth. For within that silent vessel lies everything he knew of patience, balance, and beauty. The centuries cannot erase it. The vase remains, an emerald whisper from the east, carrying the peace of an age long gone. The rediscovery of the vase awakens a quiet fascination across Korea and beyond. Scholars and collectors come from distant lands, eager to see this jewel of history. They handle it with white gloves, whispering reverently, as if speaking too loudly might disturb centuries of slumber. Its color seems almost alive, shifting subtly with every flicker of light, as though it breathes in rhythm with the world. In workshops that attempt to replicate the old Goryeo techniques, artisans study every detail. They measure the thinness of its walls, the way the glaze pools slightly near the base, the faint network of crackles that make the surface shimmer like morning dew. Many try to duplicate it, yet none succeed. The secret of its creation remains as elusive as the first morning mist over the river valley where the original potter kneaded his clay. The vase is eventually displayed in a museum, elevated on a simple wooden pedestal, encased in glass that reflects the soft gallery lights. Visitors come in quiet clusters, drawn to the serenity emanating from its curves. Some lean in, studying the delicate transitions of color, while others stand back, letting the presence of the piece wash over them. Even in silence, the vase communicates. It speaks of patience, of craftsmanship, of a time when beauty was born from slow, deliberate effort rather than haste. Children are often the first to sense its quiet magic. They press their palms against the glass and imagine it in the hands of the ancient potter, spinning on a wheel as dawn breaks over Goryeo's hills. Their whispers mingle with the echoes of scholars debating the glaze's exact composition, the minerals that give it its subtle translucence, and the artistry that can only come from decades of study and practice. Each person carries away a fragment of the vase's story, as though its calm has seeped into their own hearts. Outside the museum, life continues. Seoul hums with modernity. Buses rumble, streets are lit with neon, and markets buzz with conversation. Yet within that building, the vase remains untouched by time or noise. It exists as a bridge between worlds, the ancient and the contemporary, the East and the West, the hands of a solitary potter, and the eyes of countless admirers centuries later. Historians trace the lineage of Celadon back through decades of court commissions and kiln experiments. They document how the techniques evolved, how the Goryeo artisans discovered the perfect balance of ash, water, and minerals to achieve the ethereal green glaze. Each fragment of knowledge, each historical record, enriches the vase's story, giving it context and depth. Yet even with all this study, the vase retains a mystery. No writing, no record, no formula can fully explain the quiet majesty it holds. Collectors from around the world marvel at its subtlety. Unlike the gilded statues and ostentatious ornaments of other cultures, this vase is unassuming in shape but profound in presence. It does not demand attention through size or weight. It draws you in with its calm, its balance, its harmony. Scholars often remark that observing it is like listening to a distant wind through bamboo, or watching sunlight ripple across a still pond. Its beauty is not loud, it is steady, enduring, and deeply human. Over the decades, the vase inspires artists, not only in ceramics but also in painting, poetry, and design. Painters try to capture its jade-green glow on canvas, though their pigments always fall short. Poets describe the feeling of serenity it evokes, comparing it to quiet mornings in the mountains or the gentle flow of a river. Designers study its proportions, translating its subtle lines into contemporary furniture, architecture, and decorative arts. In every instance, the vase's influence quietly pervades modern life. The narrative of the potter himself becomes a source of fascination. Though his name is lost to time, the story of his hands shaping clay, of the hours spent coaxing it into form, and of the fire that revealed its soul continues to resonate. Museums and exhibitions recount his journey, allowing visitors to imagine the labor, dedication, and intimacy required to create something of such enduring beauty. In doing so, they honor not only the vase, but the human spirit that made it possible. As the vase journeys through time, it becomes a symbol of cultural resilience. The Goryeo dynasty may have faded, yet its artistry lives on. Wars, invasions, and regime changes cannot diminish the elegance of a simple curve, the shimmer of glaze, or the quiet power of craftsmanship executed with love and patience. It stands as proof that human creation can transcend the turbulence of history, achieving something near eternal. The vase inspires contemplation in quiet corners of the world. Visitors often pause before it in reflective silence. They note the faint variations in color, the subtle imperfections that give it character, and the sense of stillness it embodies. For many, it is more than an object, it is a teacher. Its message is clear yet unspoken. In creation, in patience, in attention to detail, one may achieve beauty that endures beyond the life of any single human. In recent years, scientific analysis adds another layer to its story. Using non-invasive techniques, experts study the glaze, the clay, and the firing conditions. They discover traces of minerals unique to the hills around Kaesong, and subtle microcrystals in the glaze that refract light in delicate patterns. These revelations confirm what artisans and scholars have long sensed intuitively, that Goryeo Celadon is the result of both skill and the environment itself, a dialogue between human hands and the earth. Travelers from abroad are drawn to Korea to see the vase in person. They marvel at its quiet majesty and often describe an almost spiritual experience, as if the centuries of silence have imbued it with a presence of its own. Some say they feel the coolness of its surface, even through the glass. Others feel a sense of calm settle into their chest. The vase, though silent, teaches patience, respect, and the value of subtlety in a world that often prizes the loud and immediate. Its influence reaches classrooms, where students of art, history, and culture study it, not only as a masterpiece, but as a lesson in observation and restraint. Teachers guide young eyes to its curves, its smooth transitions, and the gentle shimmer that shifts as the light changes. They explain the historical context of Goryeo Korea, the importance of Celadon in royal and religious life, and the meticulous care required to produce such artistry. In doing so, they ensure that the knowledge and reverence for this creation are passed to future generations. The vase has even inspired philosophical reflection. Writers and thinkers liken it to life itself. The form is shaped by constraints, the surface perfected through trials, and the final appearance a testament to patience, balance, and harmony. It becomes a metaphor for human experience, reminding viewers that beauty often emerges not from abundance but from subtlety and persistence. Over time, replicas are made, exhibitions travel, and the story of the vase spreads across continents, yet the original remains in its serene place, undisturbed, almost aloof in its quiet authority. Visitors come and go, cameras flash, and yet the vase does not change. Its story continues silently, whispering across centuries, carrying with it the wisdom of the hands that first shaped it, the fire that revealed its essence, and the calm majesty of a culture that revered beauty in its most refined form. And so the Goryeo Celadon vase endures. From the quiet hands of an anonymous potter to the halls of a modern museum, From the dust of forgotten chambers to the eyes of admirers across the world, it remains a bridge through time. Each curve, each glaze, each subtle crackle is a note in a melody that only patience can teach, only observation can understand, and only silence can reveal. Its legacy is not just in its color, shape, or historical value. It is in the calm it evokes, the stories it carries, and the way it teaches those who see it to slow down, to notice, and to honor the subtlety of craft. In a world that often rushes, this vase invites reflection, patience, and quiet admiration. Even now, as visitors move past, the vase seems to hold its breath, watching, waiting. It reminds those who pause before it that beauty is not always immediate, that silence can speak more powerfully than words, and that human hands, guided by patience and love, can create something that whispers across centuries. And though it sits behind glass, perfectly preserved, it is alive in its stillness. Its presence is a testament to the enduring power of art, the intersection of human creativity and natural materials, and the quiet majesty that comes from dedication to craft. The vase remains, emerald green and flawless, a silent teacher and a timeless witness to the world that shaped it, and the generations it continues to touch. The story of the Korean Goryeo Celadon vase is not merely about a single artifact. It is about the dialogue between humanity and nature, between skill and patience, between history and modernity. It is about the enduring impact of quiet, persistent effort, and the way a single object can carry the essence of a culture through centuries, leaving an indelible mark on all who behold it. And so the vase rests, timeless, patient, a gentle whisper from the east. It is more than clay and glaze. It is memory, serenity, and the echo of countless hands that shaped, fired, and preserved it. In its calm presence, it teaches a universal truth, that beauty, when crafted with care and reverence, can transcend time itself, touching hearts long after its creators have vanished into the mists of history. The Benin Bronzes, echoes of a kingdom in bronze. In the heart of what is now southern Nigeria, long before the sounds of modern cities rose above the earth, there existed the kingdom of Benin. Its streets were lined with clay houses. Its marketplaces thrummed with the voices of traders, and the air carried the scent of the river mingling with the smoke of hearth fires. In the royal palace, built of red earth and adorned with intricate carvings, artisans worked in near silence, their hands moving with steady precision, creating treasures that would endure for centuries. Among these, the bronzes stood as the most extraordinary. The Benin bronzes were not mere objects. They were a language, a history, and a statement of power and devotion. Each plaque, each figure, was meticulously cast in bronze, using techniques that had been perfected over generations. The artisans were highly revered, trained from youth in secret guilds that guarded their methods closely. It was said that to master the lost wax casting process was to hold a piece of the kingdom's soul in one's hands. Within the palace, a young apprentice watched as the master craftsman poured molten metal into a mold. The apprentice's eyes reflected the orange glow of the furnace. Sweat ran down his brow, but he did not flinch. Each movement was deliberate. He observed the care with which the master smoothed the wax, carved delicate patterns into the figures, and whispered prayers for strength and protection. It was a ritual as much as it was craft. The work carried a weight far greater than gold. These bronzes told stories: kings and warriors, hunters and priests, animals and ceremonial scenes, each plaque a frozen narrative capturing the essence of the kingdom's values and history. They lined the walls of the royal palace, marking the reigns of great rulers and commemorating victories, alliances, and sacred ceremonies. They were designed to awe, to remind all who entered the palace of the divine and earthly power vested in the Oba, the king. Outside the palace, the city thrived. Markets offered ivory, cloth, and beads. Traders arrived from distant lands, carrying goods and tales of faraway shores. Yet even among the bustle, the work of the bronze casters remained sacred and separate. Only those initiated into the guild could enter the workshops. Each piece they made was imbued with not only skill but also spiritual intention. A king might be represented in bronze wearing coral beads and ceremonial attire, his expression serene yet commanding, a silent testament to his reign for generations yet unborn. The casting process itself was mesmerizing. Wax figures were carefully shaped, covered in clay, and then heated until the wax melted away, leaving a hollow mold. Molten bronze, heated in a furnace to its shimmering golden-orange state, was poured into this cavity. As the metal cooled and hardened, it absorbed the traces of the master's touch, the fingerprints, the tiny imperfections, the subtle carvings that gave each piece life. When the clay mold was broken away, the bronze emerged, radiant and eternal, carrying with it the story that had been imagined months, sometimes years, before. Many plaques depicted scenes of court life: the Oba seated regally, attendants bowing in respect, warriors holding spears and shields, musicians raising drums and bells. Others told stories of ancestral spirits, reflecting the deep reverence for lineage and tradition in Benin society. Each figure held symbolism, each gesture had meaning, each detail was deliberate. To look upon a Benin bronze was to witness a language spoken in metal, a memory etched in permanence. Over time, the bronzes also served as a link between generations. Kings commissioned new pieces to honor their ancestors, ensuring continuity of tradition and the preservation of their legacy. When a ruler passed, the bronzes surrounding his throne bore witness to the rites, their silent presence a reminder of both mortality and eternal order. The artisans understood that they were not merely crafting objects, they were shaping history itself, one figure at a time. The kingdom itself was vast and complex. Dense forests and winding rivers separated distant villages from the capital. Yet the influence of Benin radiated outward. Warriors carried the Oba's edicts, traders exchanged goods along the Niger River, and the bronzes became symbols of power and diplomacy, gifted to allies and envoys, admired across regions. Their beauty and craftsmanship were unmatched, even by faraway lands. But the world outside Benin would eventually test the resilience of these treasures. As centuries passed, European traders arrived along the coast, bringing with them curiosity, commerce, and eventually, conflict. Ships laden with goods sailed into the harbor, and the foreign presence became a fixture alongside the city's own traditions. Yet within the palace, the bronzes remained, steadfast, bearing silent witness to every meeting, treaty, and negotiation. The fall of the kingdom to outside forces would come much later, but even then, the bronzes endured, removed from their walls, and scattered across distant lands. Some were taken as spoils, others sold, and yet they retained their inherent dignity. Museums and private collections across continents now hold fragments of the kingdom's memory, each plaque a silent storyteller of Benin's glory. Scholars pore over them, tracing the lineage of rulers, studying ceremonial attire, and deciphering the cultural codes embedded in every gesture and ornament. Modern technology allows us to see details once hidden. Minute engravings on collars, inscriptions along the edges, textures that reveal the artist's hand. Scientific analysis uncovers the composition of the bronze, the sources of copper, tin, and other metals. Yet even with all this knowledge, the essence of the Benin bronzes cannot be captured fully by facts alone. Their power lies in presence, the way they command attention without movement, the way they whisper across centuries, bridging the past and present. Visitors from across the world stand before the bronzes in hushed awe. Children ask questions, adults ponder history, and all feel a connection to a civilization that thrived centuries ago in what might seem an unfamiliar landscape. Each bronze seems to breathe with its own rhythm, a heartbeat of cultural memory preserved in metal. The story of the artisans is equally compelling. Apprentices trained for years, learning to respect fire, clay, and wax, guided by masters who understood the delicate balance of creation. They worked in dimly lit workshops, their faces illuminated by furnace glow, hands coated in fine layers of soot and metal dust. The rhythmic tapping of tools against bronze, the gentle hum of observation, the concentration required to perfect each casting, all of it became part of a sacred ritual, a passage of knowledge from one generation to the next. Even today, the bronzes inspire reflection. Historians, artists, and visitors recognize that their creation was not merely technical but deeply spiritual. Each plaque, each figure, embodies both the human and the divine, the earthly authority of the Oba and the transcendent presence of ancestral spirits. To study them is to understand a worldview that values harmony, reverence, and the continuity of memory. The bronze surface itself captures light in ways that seem almost intentional. Shadows play across carved details, creating movement where none exists. Patterns of adornment shimmer subtly, hinting at textures of cloth, hair, and skin. The figure's eyes, though fixed in metal, seem to follow observers, silently acknowledging their presence. One cannot simply look at a Benin bronze, one experiences it. Its story seeps into the mind quietly, leaving traces of wonder, humility, and admiration. Time, history, and human intervention have tested the survival of these treasures, but their resilience endures. They have traveled from palace walls to European galleries, from hidden storerooms to exhibition halls, and yet their power remains intact. The gaze of the Oba, the stance of the warriors, the delicate detailing of ceremonial attire, all remain vivid, immortalized in bronze. Through centuries, the Benin bronzes have also become a symbol of cultural identity. For the people of Nigeria and beyond, they represent not only artistry but sovereignty, memory, and the endurance of a proud civilization. Efforts to return some of these treasures to their place of origin reflect the ongoing dialogue between past and present, between restitution and recognition, between the universal appeal of art and the local significance of heritage. And so, the bronzes speak. They tell of kings and priests, of artisans and apprentices, of ceremonies and celebrations, of a kingdom that flourished along the Niger Delta. Their voices are quiet yet insistent, reminding all who encounter them of human creativity, dedication, and the enduring power of culture. The kingdom may have faced conquest and dispersal, yet through these artifacts, its spirit continues to move through the world, even now as museums illuminate them under soft lights and visitors whisper in awe. The Benin bronzes continue to teach. They show us that beauty is more than appearance. It is craftsmanship, intention, and a deep understanding of society and spirituality. They demonstrate that objects can be vessels of history, carriers of memory, and bridges between generations. They are in essence more than bronze. They are echoes, enduring and profound, of a kingdom that still speaks through metal, form, and silence. As the centuries turned, the Benin bronzes began to travel far from the red earth walls of their homeland. They crossed oceans in wooden crates, arrived in bustling European cities, and were displayed in halls illuminated by chandeliers instead of sunlight. Here, their quiet majesty faced a new world, one that marveled at their craftsmanship yet often failed to understand the culture that had given them life. Still, the bronzes retained their dignity, commanding attention without a word, speaking through posture, detail, and the subtle glow of their metal. Collectors, scholars, and curators treated them as treasures of universal heritage. Each plaque was studied, measured, and photographed. Art historians traced the lineage of motifs, coral beads, ceremonial spears, intricately carved garments, and mapped the evolution of Benin artistry over centuries. Yet even in this meticulous study, there was an acknowledgement that facts alone could never fully capture the living essence of these objects. The hands that had molded, carved, and cast them centuries ago left a presence that no microscope or chemical analysis could ever replicate. Meanwhile, back in Nigeria, the story of the bronzes remained alive in oral histories. Elders recounted tales of obas and warriors, of great ceremonies and festivals where brass and bronze figures were honored alongside the king. Children listened with wide eyes, imagining the glittering halls of Benin City and the rhythm of drums echoing across the palace courtyards. The bronzes were more than art, they were touchstones of identity, reminders of a civilization's brilliance, and proof that creativity and skill could transcend time. In Europe and America, the bronzes inspired generations of artists and designers. Sculptors studied their form, painters tried to capture their essence on canvas, and designers incorporated the flowing lines, ceremonial motifs, and elegant balance into modern works. Yet, while imitations and inspired pieces appeared, nothing matched the authenticity of the originals. Each bronze was imbued with the history, spirit, and intentions of the artisans and the kingdom they served, an authenticity that could not be replicated, no matter how skilled the modern hand. Efforts to return the bronzes to their homeland became a significant cultural and political discussion. Governments, museums, and advocacy groups engaged in dialogue about heritage, ownership, and restitution. Every plaque that made its journey back was more than a physical object, it was a symbol of recognition, of respect, and of the enduring connection between people and their history. When returned to Nigeria, the bronzes were greeted with ceremony, music, and reverence. They were placed in galleries, in educational centers, and occasionally in the presence of leaders who sought to honor the legacy of the obas and the artisans whose hands had shaped them centuries ago. For visitors in Benin City, seeing the bronzes returned was an almost spiritual experience. They walked among the plaques and figures as if stepping into a story long paused. Children traced the engraved patterns with their eyes, imagining warriors marching, priests performing rituals, and kings overseeing their court. Scholars spoke of lost techniques, of the hidden knowledge passed from master to apprentice, and of the enduring genius of Gilded Age Benin artisans. All around, the bronzes seemed to breathe with life again, reintegrated into the culture that had given them birth. Across the globe, museums now display the bronzes with greater context and respect. Curators explain not only their artistic significance, but also the history of their removal and the cultural loss experienced by the Benin Kingdom. Visitors are encouraged to understand that these objects are more than decorations, they are sacred relics of a society, witnesses to history, and enduring symbols of a people's ingenuity and resilience. The plaques, statues, and figures speak silently, narrating the triumphs, rituals, and ceremonies of a long-lost kingdom, while bridging the centuries to modern audiences. Modern technology allows even greater insight into the bronze's creation. 3D imaging, chemical analysis, and non-invasive scanning reveal details of casting, finishing, and decoration previously inaccessible. Scholars trace the sources of the metals, the layering of the wax molds, and the subtle inscriptions marking events, rulers, or ceremonial significance. Even in this scientific scrutiny, the artistry shines. Each mark, each line, each contour demonstrates mastery of form, balance, and symbolism, confirming what generations had intuitively known. These were masterpieces created with reverence, patience, and profound skill. Beyond museums, the Benin bronzes have inspired global conversation about cultural heritage and the ethics of art acquisition. They remind the world that beauty, history, and meaning are intertwined, and that the objects of one society hold significance not only for their artistry but also for the people who created and cherished them. They challenge us to consider the value of memory, the cost of cultural displacement, and the responsibility to honor the legacies of civilizations that have shaped humanity. The aesthetic qualities of the bronzes continue to captivate. Observers are struck by the dynamic poses of warriors, the intricate details of ceremonial attire, and the expressive faces of figures frozen in time. In the delicate curves, the balance of composition, and the meticulous attention to detail, the artistry is timeless. Scholars note that while bronze is a resilient material, it is the design and intent that make these pieces extraordinary, ensuring that they communicate power, reverence, and beauty, centuries after their creation. Stories surrounding the bronzes reveal not only artistry, but also the social and spiritual fabric of the kingdom. Each depiction, from the obus court to the sacred ceremonies, carries coded meaning. The coral beads signify authority, the spears symbolize defense and vigilance, and the elaborate hairstyles denote lineage and status. Observing these details, one begins to understand the depth of the culture. A civilization that combined artistry, politics, spirituality, and history into a visual language that could be read across time. As the bronzes continue to journey, both physically and in the imagination of those who study them, they inspire contemplation of human creativity. They remind us that art can survive conquests, colonization, and centuries of separation. They show that even when displaced, objects can retain their power to communicate, educate, and inspire. The Benin bronzes are not just artifacts, they are voices, speaking across oceans and centuries, telling of a kingdom that flourished, of artisans who devoted their lives to beauty and legacy, and of a culture whose influence is still felt today. Through exhibitions, educational programs, and digital archives, the story of the bronzes reaches new generations. Students learn about metallurgy, the history of West Africa, and the importance of preserving cultural heritage. Art enthusiasts study the lines, textures, and symbolism, while casual visitors pause in reflection, sensing something profound in the silent gaze of a warrior, or the intricate detail of a ceremonial plaque. Each encounter deepens the understanding that the bronzes are more than metal. They are history, identity, and enduring artistry. The Benin bronzes also invite philosophical reflection. Their survival is a testament to human resilience and the endurance of beauty. They teach patience, reverence, and the power of creation to transcend time. Observing a bronze plaque or a sculpted figure, one is reminded that the human impulse to create, to honor, and to preserve is universal. These objects are not mere historical artifacts. They are lessons in continuity, creativity, and respect for culture. Even as technology advances, the bronze's magic remains unaffected. No photograph, 3D model, or digital archive can replicate the presence of a figure before one's eyes, the subtle reflection of light on bronze, or the way the contours draw attention to gesture and form. Standing before them, one feels connected to centuries of human hands, minds, and spirits, all converging in a silent narrative that endures across time. In contemporary Nigeria, the bronzes inspire pride and reflection. They are reminders of a kingdom that achieved remarkable artistic and cultural heights, of a people whose ingenuity shaped history, and of the enduring power of craft. When displayed in local museums or cultural centers, they spark conversations about heritage, restitution, and the preservation of history for future generations. Collectors and historians alike marvel at their resilience. Centuries of storage, conflict, and relocation have not diminished the bronze's aesthetic or symbolic power. Their forms remain striking, their details immaculate, and their presence commanding. Scholars continue to study, document, and celebrate them, ensuring that their story is not lost but passed down, much like the hands that originally shaped them. Ultimately, the Benin bronzes remind us that true artistry is timeless. They exemplify patience, devotion, and cultural continuity, teaching lessons far beyond their immediate context. From the workshops of Benin City to the halls of world museums, from the hands of master artisans to the eyes of contemporary observers, their story is a living testament to the power of human creativity. As we stand before these silent yet eloquent figures, we are invited into a conversation that began centuries ago. They speak of kings and warriors, artisans and apprentices, ceremonies and triumphs, conquest and resilience. Through bronze, the kingdom of Benin lives on, whispering its legacy to anyone willing to listen. The Benin bronzes are more than objects. They are voices of a civilization, echoes of a kingdom in bronze, timeless, enduring, and profoundly human. They remind us that art carries memory, history, and identity across centuries, inviting reflection, admiration, and respect. They are a bridge to the past, a lesson for the present, and an inspiration for the future. In the quiet halls of museums, in the imagination of scholars and artists, and in the heart of Nigeria, the Benin bronzes continue to speak. They are reminders of what humans can create when skill, devotion, and culture converge. They are proof that beauty can survive displacement, conflict, and time, enduring as a testament to the resilience of civilization and the enduring power of art. And so, the story of the Benin bronzes continues. Each plaque, each figure, each intricate detail tells of a kingdom that once flourished, of artisans whose hands shaped history, and of a culture whose echoes reverberate across the globe. They remain a timeless testament, silent yet eloquent, of the enduring majesty of human creativity. The Ife Bronze Head, the timeless gaze of Yoruba kings. In the heart of what is now southwestern Nigeria, long before the modern cities stretched across the landscape, there existed the ancient Yoruba kingdom of Ife. Its streets were alive with the soft rhythms of daily life, markets bustling with the exchange of beads, cloth, and pottery, while rivers reflected the warm glow of sunlight as fishermen pulled nets from the water. Among the life of the kingdom, artisans worked quietly in their workshops, shaping clay, carving wood, and casting bronze into objects that were both functional and sacred. Yet even amidst this vibrancy, there were creations that transcended the ordinary, creations that spoke of kingship, spirituality, and the enduring essence of a civilization. Among these, none captured the imagination, reverence, and artistry more profoundly than the Ife Bronze Head. The Ife Bronze Head is more than a sculpture. It is a testament to the technical brilliance, aesthetic sensitivity, and cultural depth of the Yoruba people. Crafted using a sophisticated lost wax casting technique, it achieves a remarkable balance between realism and idealization, portraying not just the likeness of a ruler, but the dignity, authority, and spiritual significance that accompanied kingship in Yoruba society. The eyes, carefully inlaid with copper or stone, appear to gaze across centuries, connecting the viewer to a world long past, yet intimately alive through the presence of the bronze itself. The expression is serene, balanced, and commanding, a quiet reflection of the Oba's power and the sanctity of his role as both a political and spiritual leader. Artisans in Ife were highly respected, trained from a young age in specialized workshops where knowledge of metallurgy, sculpture, and ceremonial symbolism was passed down through generations. Each bronze head began as a detailed wax model, meticulously shaped to capture every contour of the face, every line of expression, and every ornamental detail that would signify rank, lineage, and spiritual authority. This wax model was then encased in layers of clay, forming a mold. And when the wax melted away, molten bronze was poured into the cavity, taking the shape of the original design. Once cooled, the clay was broken away, revealing a sculpture of extraordinary realism, imbued with both technical mastery and cultural meaning. The head often represented the Oba, the king, whose presence and authority extended beyond the physical realm into the spiritual. In Yoruba belief, the Oba served as a bridge between the people and the divine, mediating with ancestral spirits and maintaining the spiritual balance of the kingdom. The head, as the seat of wisdom and consciousness, became a potent symbol of this authority. Crowns and headdresses were rendered in exquisite detail, often adorned with intricate patterns, beads, and symbolic motifs. Facial features were carefully idealized to convey serenity, intelligence, and dignity, yet they retained an individualized quality that suggested the personal identity of the ruler. These bronze heads were integral to rituals and palace life. Placed on altars, in sacred chambers, or at ceremonial events, they were more than art, they were conduits of spiritual power. Priests and palace officials consulted them during important decisions, believing that the Oba's wisdom continued to speak through the bronze even after his death. During festivals and coronations, the presence of these heads reinforced the sanctity and continuity of kingship, linking generations and preserving the authority of the ruling lineage through tangible, enduring forms. The story of the Ife Bronze Head also illuminates the broader cultural sophistication of the Yoruba people. Ife was a center of urban planning, trade, and artistic innovation. Markets thrived with goods from distant lands, and artisans excelled in multiple crafts, from weaving and beadwork to pottery and metal casting. In this rich cultural environment, the creation of bronze heads was considered a sacred duty, a practice that combined artistic skill, religious devotion, and a deep understanding of symbolism and leadership. Workshops were closely guarded spaces, where knowledge of alloy composition, mold making, and sculptural design was transmitted carefully to apprentices under the watchful eye of master artisans. What is remarkable about the Ife bronzes is their realism. Unlike many contemporary sculptures elsewhere, these heads portray the human form with incredible fidelity, capturing subtle details of anatomy, expression, and individuality. The eyes are particularly striking, often inlaid to give a lifelike quality that seems to follow the observer. Cheeks, lips, and foreheads are rendered with nuanced attention, reflecting an intimate understanding of the human face. Yet alongside this realism is an idealization meant to convey authority, spiritual presence, and dignity, a duality that makes the work both true to life and symbolic. Over the centuries, many of these bronzes were removed from their original context, particularly during periods of colonial exploration and trade. They crossed oceans, appearing in European museums and private collections, where their technical mastery was admired, yet their cultural significance was often misunderstood. Still, despite the distance from their homeland, the heads retained their quiet power, their gaze unbroken, their cultural resonance undiminished. They continued to embody the wisdom of kings, the skill of artisans, and the spiritual heart of a civilization. In modern times, scholars have sought to understand the intricacies of their creation. Chemical analysis reveals sophisticated alloy compositions, indicating knowledge of metallurgy that was advanced for its era. Detailed examinations uncover symbolic elements woven into the design, marks indicating lineage, spiritual attributes, and ceremonial significance. Each detail is intentional, conveying layers of meaning beyond the visual form, linking the sculpture to rituals, cosmology, and the complex social hierarchy of the Yoruba kingdom. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, the Ife Bronze Heads remain central to cultural identity and memory. Oral histories recount the lives of the Obas, the ceremonies of the palace, and the sacred role of the artisans. Children learn from elders about the importance of lineage, the reverence for ancestral wisdom, and the beauty of creation that is both spiritual and practical. In this way, the culture of the bronzes continues, living not only in metal but in story, memory, and practice. The technical brilliance of the bronze casting process continues to inspire awe. Lost wax casting requires patience, precision, and a deep understanding of material behavior. Molten bronze must be handled at exact temperatures, clay molds carefully prepared, and every step executed with care. One error could destroy months of labor, yet the artisans of Ife mastered this art, leaving behind works of profound skill and beauty that have endured for centuries. Beyond the palace and workshops, the bronzes offer insights into social life, fashion, and ceremony. Crowns, necklaces, and hairstyles reveal rank and lineage, while facial expressions capture serenity, authority, and character. Through these details, we glimpse a society that valued order, reverence, and aesthetic refinement, a culture that understood the power of visual language to communicate status, belief, and identity. Today, the Ife Bronze Heads are celebrated worldwide as masterpieces of human creativity. Exhibitions, educational programs, and digital archives bring their story to new generations. Scholars continue to study their composition, design, and symbolism, while visitors experience the silent presence of kings and the subtle wisdom of artisans whose hands created enduring works of art. Each encounter offers reflection, connecting viewers with a civilization that flourished centuries ago, bridging past and present through the universal language of artistry. Even as digital technology advances, capturing every detail through 3D imaging, scanning, and chemical analysis, the profound impact of standing before an Ife Bronze Head remains unmatched. The tactile presence, the subtle gleam of bronze, the expression that seems alive, all evoke a connection that transcends time and geography. These heads are not merely objects, they are conduits of memory, identity, and cultural continuity, teaching respect, patience, and reverence for human achievement. In contemporary Nigeria, the bronzes inspire pride and reflection. They are symbols of ingenuity, spiritual depth, and cultural resilience. Their existence reminds us that civilizations produce lasting beauty, that human skill can endure across centuries, and that even in displacement, objects retain their meaning and power. The Ife Bronze Head continues to bridge generations, linking artisans of the past with observers of the present, inviting contemplation of culture, history, and artistry. The gaze of the Ife Bronze Head is unflinching, calm, and commanding. It teaches lessons in leadership, devotion, and continuity. It reminds us that art is eternal, that culture endures, and that human creativity transcends the limits of time. Every detail from the eyes to the crown speaks with clarity and purpose, communicating not just beauty but wisdom, reverence, and identity. As we imagine the workshops of Ife, the glow of molten bronze, the tapping of tools, and the devotion of artisans, we are drawn into a world both distant and immediate. We see kings and priests, ceremonies and festivals, and the silent reverence with which each object was treated. Through these heads, the past speaks across centuries, inviting understanding, admiration, and awe. The Ife Bronze Head is more than a sculpture. It is a guardian of memory, a vessel of history, and a testament to the enduring genius of the Yoruba civilization. It is a bridge between generations, a silent witness to the lives, beliefs, and artistry of a culture that thrived long before modern records. In its presence, we are reminded of the profound human capacity for creation, reverence, and continuity. Its gaze is timeless, its artistry unmatched, and its story unbroken. The Ife Bronze Head continues to watch over its kingdom, echoing the wisdom of centuries, the skill of devoted hands, and the spirit of a people whose legacy endures through bronze. In this serene and powerful presence, we encounter the eternal voice of human creativity, a reminder that culture, skill, and beauty can transcend time, leaving a mark that continues to inspire and teach. Even as we reflect upon the centuries that have passed, the Ife Bronze Head remains steadfast, silent yet eloquent, a symbol of kingship, artistry, and cultural endurance. It is a reminder that while human lives are fleeting, the creations we leave behind can speak across generations, carrying memory, identity, and inspiration. In the stillness of its presence, we are invited into a dialogue with history, witnessing the eternal gaze of Yoruba kings and the undying skill of their artisans. Through its existence, the Yoruba civilization continues to breathe, teaching us about the beauty of human expression, the sanctity of leadership, and the resilience of culture. Every curve, every line, and every adornment whispers stories of the past, lessons for the present, and inspiration for the future. The Ife Bronze Head is not merely a relic of a bygone era. It is a living testament to the enduring power of art, culture, and human ingenuity. As we leave the contemplation of the Bronze Head, we carry with us a sense of reverence. We have glimpsed the heart of a civilization, the devotion of artisans, and the solemnity of kingship preserved in metal. We have connected with a world long past, yet vibrantly alive through the artistry that survived centuries of change. In the silent gaze of the Ife Bronze Head, we find wisdom, beauty, and an unbroken link to the enduring spirit of human creativity. The Knossos snake goddess, whispers of Minoan rituals. Long ago, on the sun-drenched island of Crete, long before the rise of classical Greece, there flourished a civilization whose art, architecture, and religion still echo through the corridors of history. This was the world of the Minoans, a people whose cities were vibrant with color, whose palaces were adorned with intricate frescoes, and whose beliefs intertwined the natural world with divine presence. Among the many artifacts that survive from this civilization, one stands as an extraordinary testament to their spirituality and artistic sophistication: the Knossos snake goddess. The snake goddess is more than a figurine. She is a symbol, a window into a world in which humans and the divine existed in an intimate, ever-present relationship. Crafted in the heart of Knossos, she embodies a delicate balance of mystery and authority, of femininity and sacred power. In her hands, she holds serpents, creatures that slither with quiet grace, representing life, death, renewal, and the mysterious forces that the Minoans sought to honor and understand. Her form is striking, her gaze is calm yet commanding, her posture poised, and her attire detailed with patterned skirts and open bodices, suggesting not only ceremonial importance, but a connection to fertility and the cycles of nature. The artistry of the snake goddess is remarkable. Made from faience, a glazed ceramic material, the figurine gleams with a subtle radiance, catching the light in ways that make her presence feel alive. Her face is small and delicate, with wide eyes that seem to hold secrets, whispering stories of rituals long forgotten. Each curve of her body, each coil of the serpents, and each detail of her headdress reflects the Minoans' sophisticated understanding of proportion, symbolism, and the human form. In a society where art and ritual were inseparable, the creation of such a figure was an act of devotion, a tangible connection to the unseen forces that guided daily life, agriculture, and the cycles of the natural world. The Minoans believed in the sacred power of women, particularly in relation to fertility, growth, and the sustenance of life. The snake goddess embodies this belief, representing both the nurturing and protective aspects of the divine feminine. She may have been used in rituals intended to ensure the fertility of the land, the health of the community, or the favor of the gods. The serpents she holds were not symbols of fear but of wisdom, regeneration, and the eternal flow of life. In her serene expression, one can imagine the Minoans seeing not just a goddess, but a guide, a protector, and a mediator between the mortal and the divine. Knossos itself, the city where she was discovered, was a marvel of urban planning and architectural sophistication. Its palace complex, sprawled across terraces and chambers, with intricate drainage systems, vibrant frescoes, and storerooms filled with the remnants of daily life and ceremonial practice. The city was a hub of trade and culture, connecting Crete to the wider Mediterranean world. Within this vibrant city, the snake goddess would have been more than decoration. She would have been central to spiritual practice, an object of reverence in homes, shrines, or public spaces, embodying the values, fears, and hopes of the Minoan people. The discovery of the snake goddess in the early 20th century by archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans revealed not just a remarkable piece of art, but a glimpse into the spiritual heart of an entire civilization. The figurines found in the ruins of Knossos were accompanied by other objects of ritual significance, including altars, votive offerings, and smaller faience figurines. Together they suggest a rich and complex religious life, one in which gods and humans interacted constantly, where symbols held deep meaning, and where art was inseparable from faith. The figure of the snake goddess also speaks to the Minoans' deep connection to nature. Crete is an island of rugged mountains, fertile plains, and a coastline kissed by the Mediterranean sun. Its people revered the forces that shaped their environment, the serpents of the earth, the fertility of the soil, and the cycles of the seasons. The snakes in her hands symbolize not just spiritual power, but also the practical concerns of survival and prosperity. By honoring these creatures, the Minoans acknowledged the delicate balance of life, death, and renewal that governed their world. The attire and pose of the snake goddess are equally significant. Her flounced skirt, layered and ornate, signifies status, ritual function, and cultural identity. Her raised arms holding serpents aloft suggest invocation, offering, or a ritual gesture meant to channel divine energy. The exposed breasts, while startling to modern eyes, were likely symbols of fertility, nourishment, and the life-giving role of women in Minoan society. In a world where kings, priests, and commoners alike recognized the power of ritual, the figurine would have conveyed authority, wisdom, and spiritual guidance. In the centuries that followed the Minoan civilization, much of their culture was lost to time, natural disasters, and conquest. Yet the snake goddess survived, buried in the ruins of Knossos, waiting silently to reveal the sophistication, artistry, and spiritual depth of her people. Today, she offers more than a visual spectacle. She offers a story of reverence, creativity, and human connection to the divine. Each curve of her body, each coil of the snakes, and each serene glance across the centuries speaks of a culture that valued harmony, balance, and the sacred in daily life. As we imagine the rituals she may have been part of, we see priests and priestesses invoking blessings, laying offerings at altars, and chanting in honor of the cycles of life. Festivals may have been held in her name, with dance, music, and feasting, celebrating fertility, prosperity, and the protection of the community. The snake goddess, poised and silent, would have been at the center of these ceremonies, a focus of devotion and a tangible presence of divine power. The snake goddess also serves as a window into Minoan artistic achievement. Her craftsmanship required precision, patience, and skill. The use of faience, a challenging material to work with, demonstrates their technical knowledge and artistic ambition. The detailing of her clothing, headdress, and the serpents themselves reflects an understanding of texture, proportion, and symbolism that remains impressive even by modern standards. In her creation, we see the convergence of artistry, ritual, and belief, an interplay that defines much of Minoan culture. Beyond her religious and artistic significance, the snake goddess invites reflection on the broader human experience. She reminds us that art has always been a bridge between the material and the spiritual, that through skill and imagination, humans have sought to understand and influence the unseen forces around them. She embodies the human desire to connect with something larger than ourselves, to honor life, and to seek guidance, protection, and meaning. Even as the modern world has changed, the snake goddess continues to speak. In museums, on screens, and in scholarship, she connects us to the Minoans' beliefs, their daily lives, and their dreams. Her serene gaze invites contemplation, her raised arms inspire awe, and her serpents remind us of life's mysteries, cycles, and enduring power. Through her, we experience not just an artifact, but a culture, a worldview, and a legacy that transcends time. Her influence can be seen in subsequent art, religion, and myth across the Mediterranean. The reverence for goddesses, the symbolism of snakes, and the integration of spiritual belief into daily life echo in Greek mythology, Roman practices, and even modern interpretations of ancient spirituality. The snake goddess serves as a silent guide, teaching us to observe, respect, and wonder at the harmony between humans, nature, and the divine. As we imagine holding the figurine, feeling the smooth glaze of the faience, and tracing the delicate curves of her form, we enter a dialogue across millennia. The snake goddess, though silent, communicates clearly through her presence, her symbolism, and her artistry. She reminds us that civilizations, no matter how distant in time, leave behind expressions of their values, their faith, and their creativity. In her hands, the serpent's coil, alive with meaning, representing the flow of life, wisdom, and the eternal cycles that govern all living things. Her gaze meets ours, unflinching and serene, inviting us into a world where art, ritual, and belief were inseparable, where the sacred was part of every day, and where humanity sought connection with forces beyond comprehension. The Knossos snake goddess is not merely a relic. She is a storyteller, a teacher, and a guardian of memory. Through her, we learn of the Minoan sophistication, their reverence for nature, their celebration of life, and their understanding of the sacred. She speaks across time, a whisper from the past that continues to resonate, reminding us of the beauty, mystery, and depth of human expression. Even in silence, she is eloquent. Even in stillness, she moves the imagination. Through her artistry, we glimpse the heart of a civilization, the devotion of its people, and the enduring power of ritual. The snake goddess stands as a testament to the Minoan's vision, a bridge between the ancient and modern world, inviting awe, respect, and contemplation. Her serpents, her gaze, her posture, all are part of a visual language that transcends words. They tell of reverence, authority, renewal, and life's intricate balance. In her presence, one can feel the rhythm of Minoan society, the heartbeat of their rituals, and the sacred thread that connected them to the world around them. As we reflect on the snake goddess, we see the continuity of human fascination with the divine, the enduring role of women in spiritual life, and the timeless quest to make the unseen visible through art. Each line, curve, and symbol is imbued with meaning, a story waiting to be understood and appreciated. The Knossos snake goddess whispers across millennia, her voice carried in form, color, and gesture. She embodies the intersection of life, death, and rebirth, the sacred and the everyday, the mortal and the divine. Through her, the Minoans continue to teach us about artistry, ritual, and the enduring human desire to connect with something greater than ourselves. In the quiet contemplation of her form, we find ourselves transported to a world of vibrant ceremonies, serene landscapes, and profound belief. We witness a people who honored the cycles of nature, celebrated life, and expressed their spirituality through beauty, skill, and imagination. The snake goddess remains, a timeless symbol of Minoan culture, inviting us to observe, reflect, and marvel. Through her serpents and her gaze, her raised arms and elaborate attire, the snake goddess tells us that even thousands of years later, the human desire to honor, to understand, and to create persists. She reminds us that art is eternal, ritual is enduring, and the whispers of the past continue to resonate in the present. The Knossos snake goddess, in all her grace and power, remains a sentinel of history, a teacher of artistry, and a guide into the sacred world of the Minoans. She is more than an artifact. She is a voice, a presence, and a bridge across time, allowing us to feel the reverence, creativity, and spiritual depth of a civilization that continues to inspire and captivate even today. The Tomb of the General, Guardians of Goguryeo Eternity. In the northern reaches of the Korean peninsula, amidst rolling hills and quiet valleys, lies the legacy of a civilization whose artistry, power, and rituals continue to captivate historians and travelers alike. This is the realm of Goguryeo, one of the three kingdoms of ancient Korea, a people renowned for their military strength, cultural sophistication, and enduring architectural achievements. Among the many remarkable remnants of this civilization stands a monument that speaks to both the grandeur and the intimacy of their society. The Tomb of the General. The Tomb of the General, located near the city of Jeon, is more than a burial site. It is a testament to the artistry, ritual, and social hierarchy of Goguryeo elites. Constructed with painstaking care, the tomb's earthen mound conceals chambers filled with bronze, ceramic, and stone artifacts, each chosen to accompany the deceased on the journey into the afterlife. As we explore the tomb and the treasures within, we gain insight into the spiritual beliefs, societal structure, and daily life of a people whose civilization flourished from the 1st century BCE to the 7th century CE. At the heart of the tomb lies its occupant, known only as the General, a figure of authority whose life and status demanded commemoration in stone and metal. The mound itself, rising prominently from the surrounding landscape, was carefully engineered to endure, symbolizing the permanence of the individual's influence and the respect afforded by their community. The tomb's orientation and construction reveal a sophisticated understanding of both practical and spiritual considerations, aligning with cosmological beliefs and ensuring the protection of the deceased. Inside, the tomb reveals an astonishing array of artifacts. Bronze mirrors reflect light across the chamber, their polished surfaces engraved with intricate patterns and symbols of protection. Ceramic vessels, carefully arranged, once held offerings of food and drink intended to sustain the general in the afterlife. Weapons, including swords and armor, testify to the martial prowess that defined the elite class of Goguryeo society. Every object, meticulously placed, tells a story of respect, reverence, and the desire to preserve memory beyond the confines of mortality. The tomb's murals, painted with vivid pigments, provide a window into the spiritual and social world of the Goguryeo. Scenes depict warriors in ceremonial garb, attendants performing rituals, and symbolic motifs representing the cycles of life, death, and cosmic order. These murals are not mere decoration, they are a narrative, a visual testament to the beliefs and values of a civilization that understood the power of art to guide, protect, and communicate across generations. Bronze artifacts in the tomb are particularly striking. The craftsmanship demonstrates both technical skill and artistic sensitivity. Intricate patterns decorate ceremonial swords, helmets, and armor, blending functionality with symbolic meaning. The sheen of polished bronze, combined with detailed engravings, creates a sense of vitality, as if the objects themselves are imbued with the spirit of the general they accompany. These artifacts serve as both practical and spiritual tools, ensuring the deceased's status, power, and protection in the realm beyond. Ceramic vessels too hold profound significance. Bowls, jars, and cups are arranged with care, often bearing inscriptions or motifs related to Goguryeo cosmology. Some depict animals associated with strength, wisdom, or spiritual guidance, while others illustrate patterns that mirror the cycles of nature and the universe. By placing these vessels in the tomb, the living sought to provide comfort and sustenance for the departed, maintaining a connection that transcended death and honored the continuity of family, status, and tradition. The tomb of the general also speaks to the hierarchical nature of Goguryeo society. Only those of the highest rank, those whose lives impacted the state or commanded the loyalty of many, were interred with such elaborate care. The size of the tomb, the richness of the grave goods, and the intricacy of the murals all signal the prestige of the individual. Yet in every detail there is also a reflection of human vulnerability and the universal desire to be remembered, to leave a mark that endures beyond the brevity of life. Goguryeo itself was a kingdom defined by both conquest and culture. Stretching across vast territories, it faced rival states and external threats, yet it cultivated a rich tradition of art, literature, and architecture. The tombs, including that of the general, serve as enduring records of this duality, the necessity of military strength and the pursuit of spiritual and cultural expression. The objects within are not only symbols of status and power, but also manifestations of belief, hope, and reverence. As we examine the murals more closely, the artistry becomes even more profound. Each figure is depicted with careful attention to posture, gesture, and attire. Warriors are poised with precision, attendants move with grace, and the symbolic animals occupy spaces that suggest both protection and guidance. The colors, though faded over centuries, still convey a vibrancy and depth that connect the viewer to the energy and spirituality of the original creators. These murals were designed to be more than visual storytelling. They were protective talismans, spiritual guides, and conduits between the living and the dead. The tomb also demonstrates an understanding of architecture that is both practical and symbolic. The chambers were constructed to endure, with precise measurements and careful alignment. The earthen mound provided insulation, protection, and a sense of permanence. Corridors and entryways were designed with both function and ritual in mind, guiding those who entered through a journey of respect, contemplation, and ceremony. Every structural decision reflects the interplay of practicality, spirituality, and artistry that defined Goguryeo architecture. Beyond the physical artifacts, the tomb invites reflection on the human experience of mortality, memory, and legacy. The general, though long departed, continues to communicate with us through the objects left behind. The bronze, ceramic, and painted surfaces speak of a life of authority and responsibility, of the societal structures that elevated individuals, and of the cultural values that ensured their remembrance. In this way, the tomb transcends its physical form, becoming a bridge across time between the past and present. The snake goddess of Knossos, the Minoan rituals of Crete, and the Tang dynasty bronzes of China all find echoes in the care and reverence shown in Goguryeo tombs. Across civilizations, humans have sought to honor the departed, to preserve memory, and to connect with forces beyond the visible world. The tomb of the general is a vivid example of this universal human impulse, realized through the specific cultural lens of ancient Korea. The serpentine patterns, ceremonial objects, and painted scenes all convey layered meanings. The serpents, often associated with renewal and protection, may have influenced motifs in the tomb, echoing broader symbolic traditions across East Asia. Bronze mirrors and weaponry reinforce the importance of vigilance, honor, and preparedness, while ceramic vessels convey the nurturing and sustaining aspects of life. Together, these artifacts create a multidimensional story, intertwining spiritual belief, social hierarchy, and artistic expression. Every detail of the tomb offers lessons about the values of Goguryeo society. The meticulous placement of objects, the symbolic imagery, and the enduring materials chosen for burial all reflect a civilization deeply aware of its connection to the natural and spiritual worlds. The tomb's design and contents suggest a holistic worldview in which life, death, and the cosmos were intimately connected, and in which human action, ritual, and artistry were all means to maintain balance and harmony. The tomb of the general also speaks to the passage of time. Centuries have weathered the earthen mound, faded the pigments, and oxidized the bronze. Yet the essence of the tomb remains intact. Its silent chambers continue to tell a story of reverence, artistry, and the profound human desire to transcend mortality. Archaeologists and historians, working carefully to preserve and interpret the site, have unraveled layers of meaning, revealing a civilization that was at once practical, spiritual, and artistically sophisticated. As we imagine walking through the tomb, we see the careful arrangement of bronze and ceramic, the murals depicting ceremonies and guardians, and the symbolic interplay of life and death. Each artifact carries weight, not merely in material value, but in the story it conveys. In this silent narrative, the general remains present, guiding us through the values, beliefs, and aesthetics of his world. The Tomb of the General, in its combination of artistry, ritual, and architecture, exemplifies the enduring human desire to create permanence in a transient world. Through bronze weapons, painted murals, and carefully constructed chambers, the people of Goguryeo demonstrated their understanding of mortality, spirituality, and social order. These treasures continue to speak, inviting viewers to connect with the past, to reflect on the universality of human experience, and to appreciate the extraordinary skill and devotion of ancient artisans. Even today, the tomb stands as a monument, not only to a single individual, but to an entire civilization. It reminds us of the interconnectedness of human achievement, belief, and memory. It illustrates how art, ritual, and societal structure can converge to create a lasting legacy, one that survives through centuries and continues to inspire awe. In contemplating the Tomb of the General, we are transported to the heart of Goguryeo society, where spiritual practice, ceremonial duty, and artistic expression were intertwined. We witness a people who revered their leaders, celebrated life, and sought connection with the cosmos. The bronze and ceramic artifacts, the painted scenes, and the carefully engineered tomb all speak of a civilization that understood the enduring power of memory and the sacred importance of honoring the departed. The guardians of Goguryeo eternity, silent and steadfast, invite us to imagine the rituals that once filled these chambers. We envision priests and attendants conducting ceremonies, offering food, incense, and devotion to ensure the well-being of the general in the afterlife. Through these acts, we glimpse the moral, spiritual, and cultural priorities of the society, and we recognize the profound human desire to preserve legacy beyond the ephemeral nature of life. Ultimately, the Tomb of the General is more than a collection of artifacts. It is a narrative carved in bronze, painted in pigments, and shaped in clay, a story of honor, belief, and artistic achievement. It connects the living and the dead, the present and the past, and reminds us of the enduring power of ritual, the importance of memory, and the beauty of human expression. Through its silent guardians, we hear the whispers of a civilization that continues to captivate, educate, and inspire, bridging the centuries with grace and authority. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history's hidden treasures. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share where you're watching from. Stay curious and keep exploring the mysteries of the past with us. Until next time, may the stories of ancient worlds continue to inspire you.